So, Sarika, would you like me to pull up the slides while you introduce yourselves?
Perfect. Yes, thank you. So
Let's see.
excited to have this webinar. I still see people coming in, so that's awesome. Maybe I can start with a quick introduction. So first of all, fantastic to see you all. My name is Sarika Garg. I'm the co-founder CEO of Cashflow, and Cashflow is a CPQ for SaaS. And we take a very unique and different approach to solving the CPQ problem. We think about it from the seller's perspective, and we think about all the things we can do to help the seller close a deal. So that's basically helping them create compliant quotes very easily, get them signed, further helping a seller like do things like upsells, cross-sells, renewals very easily. And the way we do it by putting all these interactions online, it leads to better forecasting, better billing, better reporting, better new pricing rollouts for companies. We've been around for 3 years, and we love this community because it's a fantastic community where everybody is trying to become better. And this is our second webinar together with RevOps Co-op. And the first one we actually did with our partners, Domestique. So I'm very excited to welcome Reese. On popular demand, we brought Reese back, Domestique back. And I think I mentioned this in the last webinar, but we met Reese through an introduction and Domestique, and we loved the way they were approaching RevOps as a very strategic function, and they go help companies to think through things in a very systematic approach, thinking from what matters. And we love that because that's how we believe things should be done, even at Cashflow. So I want to actually turn over the mic to Reese so he can introduce himself, and then we can jump into the topic after that.
Thank you, Sarka. I appreciate it. Excited to have conversation today with everybody. I don't know if it's popular demand. My sister definitely would have issue with that. So I don't know if she would agree with that. But excited to chat with everybody. As Sarka mentioned, I'm co-founder of Domestique. I built my career in ops, things like that. I started with a co-founder of mine a couple of years ago. We were just going to make a little side hustle vacation money, and it kept growing and stuff like that. So today we're now a RevOps and marketing ops agency. We've got almost 20 of us between kind of full-time and contractors we're working with. So we do all sorts of things. One kind of comment here as we're going through this, this actually worked really well the last time we did this, but would much rather have people like speak up, ask questions throughout, because otherwise you're just going to like listen to us talk the whole time. And I can unequivocally tell you no one wants to do that. So like, please don't hesitate, ask questions, things like that. Like we want, Sarka and I have both been very intentional as we were prepping for this. We want this to be tangible. Like I generally hate webinars that it's just a bunch of slideware theoretical. Like we want this to be tangible. So hopefully you take something away today of like, oh, okay, I can go do X and this is going to help us internally. So don't hesitate, ask any questions, love questions, stuff like that. But Sarka, you want to dive in?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is absolutely true. And I think we did a relatively good job. We actually have the highest NPS score of a RevOps webinar because we try to give content that's valuable to everybody. And we're going to try to do the same thing today. So when Reese and I were talking about what is a topic that might be interesting after the RevOps Co-ops audit, we came on to this topic of keys to optimizing your tech stack. And here's the deal, right? Like I talk to 4 to 5 RevOps people every single week, right? Like I'm sort of in your rooms, like talking to you guys. And what I see consistently is there is no consistency, right? Like you actually have some very experienced revenue operations leaders, and then you have some very sort of young upcoming revenue leaders. And there are things that can actually go right and wrong on both sides. So sometimes you actually have the experienced people who will come in and say, oh, I've done this before in my old company and I'm just going to replicate it this way. And that can either be good or really bad because, that's not really how you should be approaching it. And then the second might be, a younger leader may just want to bring in all the cool things, or maybe like told by somebody else to bring in a cool tool in, and suddenly you actually have this sort of mishmash of tools that may not work together. So we really wanted to come in and actually give our our experience and what we've seen, and actually specifically Reese's experience, because he's doing this day in, day out with with amazing companies about how can we help RevOps do a fantastic job of not of really putting together the tech stack and making things right. So that's the topic for today. And it's an interesting topic because the sales stack has changed dramatically in the last 10 years. So there is no, like what was possible in 10 years ago is quite different from now. So it's a very relevant topic for today as well. So should we get started, Reese?
Let's go. Let's crank. I'm
Okay.
excited for this.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead, Sarka.
Well, just to introduce, I think when we were talking, we said, well, we always want to start off with what is the job of RevOps? What is really important? So Reese, over to you.
Yeah, so what's interesting is like we start actually the vast majority of our presentations with this because Sarka was alluding to this. We actually generally think most people out there, whether it's companies hiring for RevOps, whether it's people in RevOps, or whether it's RevOps agencies, have no idea what RevOps actually is. And like I say that somewhat flippant, but I actually generally kind of mean this. So like, and this is very important as we think about the tech side. So when we define RevOps, and this is Domestique's definition of RevOps, this is on our website. The good news is there's a bunch of really talented thought leaders out there like Sarka and the cash flow team and some other individuals who generally agree with this type of definition. But first thing is it's across the entire customer journey. It's not just sales and marketing. So it's truly product, marketing, BDR, sales, PS, CS, all in alignment with finance. The second thing, and this is very important, particularly for our conversation today, is there's 5 work streams across that entire customer journey, and the order is extremely important. So first is what we call planning or strategy, right? This is your go-to-market strategy. So it's everything from what's your ICP, what's your marketing strategy? Are you an ABM shop? You know, are you using a value-based messaging framework like a Spice, a Bant, a MedPick? What's your internal operating cadence? What's your stage advancement criteria? All those types of things. If your go-to-market strategy is not documented, and I mean written down on a piece of paper so that a 22-year-old BDR actually understands what it is, it does not exist. Second is process. So this is the day-to-day stuff coming out of your strategy that allows one individual versus the 10th individual to run the same playbook, right? So BDR gets on a first phone call, on a discovery call. What are the questions they're asking? How are they documented? Are those questions tied to a Bant or a Spice or a MedPick? When sales hands off a close one opportunity CS, what does that process look like? Do they meet? How do they document things? Those types of things. So whether you have one BDR or 20 or 10 salespeople or 100, everybody's running kind of the same play. The third is tech. So this is not just your CRM. This is the entire tech stack that touches the customer journey, and it should be based upon strategy and process, right? And this is going to be very core to our conversation today. We see a lot of companies who come in and they're like, well, we do it this way because, you know, this is how Salesforce is set up, or things like that. It's like, no, what is your strategy? What is your process? How do you want to set up the tech stack? We were actually working with a large services company here recently, and they literally generate 75% of their revenue from expansion. Yet their CS team, which is responsible for identifying expansion opportunities, so on and so forth, isn't in Salesforce. So literally and by the way, and then the other kind of like coup d'etat was they only create opportunities if and when a deal is going to close. So they have no idea, like potential insight into what could be an expansion opportunity. The salespeople aren't using the same kind of methodology, messaging, so on and so forth, as the CS people in terms of new business versus expansion. So like they're just doing it because that's how the systems have been set up. They're not doing it based upon what is their strategy. And given the fact that their strategy was so tied to expansion, they needed to get them in there. So example of what we mean by setting up your tech stack with strategy and process. Fourth is data. Data comes out of your tech stack. 3 things about data. 1, only measure what you can make a decision around, right? You know, we see companies are like, hey, look, you know, we got 10,000 dashboards. Isn't that cool? It's like, no, that's not cool. That's gratuitous. Like, you don't need that. Like, you only need a handful of dashboards to actually measure the business around. Second, data's got to fly at the right altitude. So if you're having a conversation with an executive, are you at 20,000 feet? Another operator, are you at 2,000 feet? And third, data has to be presented in such a way where the end consumer of the data, a salesperson, BDR, a CS leader, whomever, actually understands what the data means without RevOps having to explain it to them and can then go make a decision around it. Last is enablement. So data highlights the hotspots in your customer journey, and you can point enablement at it. We think of enablement in three buckets. One is skills. How do you have an executive conversation? How do you multi-thread? How do you use Bant or Spice? Those types of things. Second is tooling. How do you actually use the tech stack to be more efficient, not less? We're going to talk about this today. And then the third is competition or market, right? How do you position yourself within an industry against competitors, right? Battle cards, pricing, objection handling, so on and so forth. So this is how we think about RevOps. I think the challenging part is we see a lot of other kind of RevOps shops or companies who are hiring for RevOps who think about it very narrowly of like, oh, hey, it's just sales and marketing, or hey, it's just a tech admin, those types of things instead of this broader view of things. So thoughts, comments, questions? Do people disagree?
I would say this might be the most important slide in this entire deck. And if you haven't, take a screenshot or we will send you the slides because this is the beginning of everything. And if you get this right, that everything else sort of starts falling into place, right? But it's a thoughtful approach, which is really, really important here.
And Sarka, you bring up a really good point. The last company I was at before we started Domestique, I had to do a bunch of internal selling because, again, even the executives who hired me and things like that thought of it as sales ops. So in all of my decks that I presented, this was one of the first slides. And like after a while, it kind of became a joke, but like I was just constantly beating the drum of like, this is RevOps. It's not just sales ops, right? Or it's not just a tech admin. So like, if you guys aren't doing this today and your organizations are thinking too narrowly on this, steal this slide and put it in the front of every one of your presentations.
Yeah, awesome. If no question, then let's move on to the next slide. Let's talk about typical tech fiascos. Do you want to start, Reese?
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So like we see a lot of kind of like common themes whenever we come into an organization and things like that. So like the themes are kind of these like major columns here, but we'll kind of talk about some of them, and we'll talk about some of the core root problems here. So like I touched on this a little bit on the previous slide. The first is like tools are set up not based upon strategy or process, right? And actually it flips it the other way where the tools are dictating the strategy or the process. And this is absolutely not what you want, right? Like tools at the end of the day should make you more efficient, right? So like you should be designing that strategy and process based upon like what's the best interest of the organization, right? Like how are we optimizing how we're going to market, things like that. The tools should support that, right? And what oftentimes will happen is when that is not set up as the case is you'll have things like it's very inefficient how the teams are kind of using things. You're trying to have manual workarounds, so on and so forth. So this is super. Oh, okay, yeah. By the way, if people do have questions, Chris, I was just reading your question. If you do have questions, don't hesitate to come off mute. Like again, Sark and I would love to have a conversation with you guys. So don't hesitate. Like I know everybody's drinking their coffees or their teas, even though tea is better. But
it's kind of easier to verbally do this. So revopscoop.com. If you go to the learn column, there's video series. That's where we post all of our webinar recordings. We'll also be posting it in the community and on LinkedIn. Sorry, keep going.
No, it's great. It's great. So not set up based upon strategy or process. Like this is clearly obvious of like tech stack is inefficient. Yeah, there's a lot of kind of like workarounds, things like that. Like you can just feel this, you understand this. The second is poor integrations, right? So in most best-in-class tech stacks, you need to have a system that is your system of record, right? And if you ask 10 different people inside an organization, hey, what is your system of record? You should hopefully get the same answer across all 10 of those people. However, if you don't, there's some other major issues, right? We see in a lot of organizations where you may ask that question and people like, our system of record is, the CS people may say, hey, it's Gainsight, and the sales people may be like, oh, it's Salesforce, things like that. Like you want one system of record. It's typically your CRM, things like that. But by having that system of record, the integrations into that become extraordinarily important, right? So like, as you think about how is your marketing automation tool flowing into it? How is your CS engagement tool? What is your data enrichment platform? Do you have a sequencing tool? How are those all flowing in? And what does that data look like? Are they bidirectional syncs? What, like, how is it flowing in? What's interesting is like one of the number one things we get brought in for externally is like an executive will reach out to us and say, hey, look, I got, I have bad data. Help me come like build some new reports. And like 99 times out of 100 has nothing to do with the reports. It's usually this kind of like underlying infrastructure things. And one of the infrastructure things is like, how are the integrations set up and how effectively are they? And we've got some best practices around this that we'll talk about here a little bit later, but like, we'll leave that as kind of a little cliffhanger. So hopefully other people hang out here and it's not just Chris who's piecing out. I'm just giving you a hard time, Chris. So the third thing is inability to kind of track renewals. So like one of the questions we ask, like most of the companies we work with is like, hey, show us the document that has got a summary of all of your tech stack, when it's up for renewal, who's the vendor CSM, how many licenses you're using, how much you're paying, and when is the potential auto renew. No one has this thing. Like very few people have this. So like you guys want like an easy project that's going to create a ton of value for you. Go ahead. You don't need to overdo it. Create a Google sheet, and we've got something here at the end that you can steal from us. But like you put together a tech renewal, it'll allow you to be a lot more proactive as you're thinking about, hey, is this a piece of tech that we want? If so, like, do we need to re-enable it? Do we want to add licenses? Do we want to try and renegotiate? I promise you, by having this, you're going to be more thoughtful and will fundamentally save money. This gets into the last piece. So tech is becoming more and more expensive. Like it is crazy some of the things that we're seeing right now. So entire tech stacks like are costing lots of money. We're one of the things we'll do for a lot of clients is we'll help negotiate tech renewals, particularly if we're working with them. And we have a client that they're probably in the $30 or $40 million in ARR. They just signed a new Salesforce contract. And the Salesforce contract on an annual basis, Salesforce plus Slack, is like almost a $400K. Like that is just Salesforce and Slack. And they've got all this other tech. They're easily spending $2 to $3 million a year on their tech stack. So if you think about that in comparison to their overall ARR, you're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of 10% of their ARR is being spent on the tech stack. And like, is that the best usage? And we know that there's a little bit of kind of waste here and there, but like, this is part of the reason why that like summary of all your tech is so important, because like tech has gotten extraordinarily expensive, and there's certain tech that is easier to negotiate than other tech, but like things like Salesforce, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, those are extraordinarily difficult to negotiate on. And so like this is becoming a larger and larger portion of companies' budgets. Sarka, what did I miss? What would you add?
I would totally add, tech is totally becoming expensive, but I think the one thing to think about is the cost of true ownership of the tech. And oftentimes, we look at negotiating the user counts and so on, but there is a extremely expensive maintenance cost that comes with tech. And that's where I think to me, the difference between consultants that actually help you to enable your business, who are strategists for you, to help you do a better job, and sort of contractors who are just kind of helping you maintain things comes into play. So we are actually working with a client right now where they actually are spending 20 to 30K in contractors. All they do is if somebody leaves, they have to recode the approval system. If they're changing some things and pricing, they have to again go in and code that in. That's something that's really, really important. And the one thing that's become really beautiful about tech is becoming much, much easier to implement, right? Like no code is becoming a real thing. And so think about when you're looking at your tech problems, you should think about this holistically in terms of what is the cost of ownership, but also what is the cost of enablement and adoption, right? And we see again and again, people get excited. We've fallen into the trap of getting very excited. We bought this demo recording tool about a few months back because we were so excited about it. But what we didn't ask for is can you give us a reference, of somebody who's used your tool before, or like show us how the onboarding would work? And we found out this particular tool did not actually had a pretty high learning curve, and they didn't really have an ecosystem or a wave to teach us. And it was one of those things where we're like, oh, we kind of missed that chance. Things like this happen all the time, right? And so it's something for us to look for as well.
And for anybody on there, I'm extraordinarily opinionated about like what tech I think is good tech and what tech I think is just nice to have or a waste tech. So anyways, feel free to toss out ideas. More than happy to give you some opinionated thoughts and whether you like it or not. But like, sorry, I think your point's 100% spot on, right? Like we see so much of this shiny object stuff that it's like, is this actually going to be valuable, right? Like, and this is where it's like a big believer in the KISS, right? Keep it simple, stupid, of like, do more with less. I promise you, if you get the team effectively using the tech stack you have rather than adding all this other stack, you will have a better tech stack in the long run.
Right. I think there's just one point I want to hit before we go to the next slide. Like that poor integration thing really hurts, right? And this is like, and you oftentimes see amazing RevOps people who are very talented who will say, oh, hey, I will just connect this. I will just make it happen. But when you have many, many, many systems now which you're connecting, you will have to maintain those. They will break, and soon it becomes like a full-time job to do that. So it's not only poor integration, that's the number of integrations that you have to maintain is something to think about as well in terms of tech problems that you may be taking on, right?
I have to jump in really quickly. Nadia is my new best friend because she wants your very biased opinion about the fluffy tech. I love keeping it spicy. Get it.
So there's a slide moving forward, and we can just jump to it if you want. It's the nice to have versus must have tech. If we want to go there now, we can talk about that.
It's slide 7. Let's go to that. And we can come back.
All right, Nadia, great question. So I fundamentally think there's 2 buckets of tech. Like again, like my sister would call me a very simple human being. So this is why, I try and make things like easy to understand frameworks. Must have, nice to have. Must have, you got to have a CRM system. I've got opinions on kind of like what I think best in class, depending on kind of size and complexity of your go-to-market motion. You need to have a good marketing automation tool. We're biggest fans of HubSpot. We think I personally think HubSpot's the best marketing automation tool out there. At some point, you're going to need to enrich your database, and you want ongoing enrichment. So, something like that. So you want some sort of data enrichment tool. Data enrichment is just so everybody knows, like they're super hit and miss. One of the largest complaints we get about them is like, oh my God, this data is off. Like the best in class data enrichment tools are probably batting at 70% accuracy. So like one thing I tell people all the time, it's actually one of the things that drives me absolutely up the wall, is like, just because one thing is wrong, the rest of it isn't wrong. So like if you're working with your teams, they're like, oh my God, this industry is wrong or this address is wrong. It's like, okay, yes, but that doesn't mean all other 10,000 records are wrong, right? So like, as you're thinking about the data enrichment, like just know like 70% is kind of what you're targeting is best in class. CPQ quoting, this is kind of like, it could be in the must have versus the nice to have, but like, this is really kind of like, are you big enough? Are you doing a lot? Are you sending out a lot of quotes? If you are, I would unequivocally, this is going to make your lives a lot easier. Most companies will, particularly when they're early on, are trying to do some sort of band-aid solution to get around it. And like the juice is definitely not worth the squeeze. And in the long run, like a CPQ quoting tool is going to be extraordinarily helpful, particularly once you kind of grow past that 1-2 sales rep places. And then obviously some sort of accounting system internally. Now, one of the challenging parts with the accounting system is connecting that to your CRM. I've seen lots of very poorly done accounting system integrations with the CRM. So that is a challenging part. One other thing, oh, by the way, Ryan, your comment just gave me anxiety trying to read all that. I'm an extraordinarily slow reader. So Camilla, I'll let you.
I gotcha.
Respond back to me. So anyways, poor, but I appreciate the comment so very much. But poor integration. So like I would classify it as like, that's the nice to have as you're thinking about that. Anything else I think is nice to have, and you need to think long and hard about what is the ROI internally. Are we going to be able to effectively use it? Things like that. So like forecasting tools, most CRMs have a basic forecasting tool. Like, is an additional forecasting tool going to get you a benefit? Maybe, I've used Clarion, lots of other things. I like it, stuff like that. But are you getting that much greater ROI than the Salesforce forecasting module? You can debate that. Sequencing tool, I think a sequencing tool could be in the must-have, nice to have. Like, I definitely think it's getting over there. If you're doing a lot of outbound and you have a significant outbound motion, you probably are going to need a sequencing tool, and connecting that into your CRM is going to be nice to have. This next one is one of my most favorites, BI tools. Lots of people want to run before they crawl when it comes to data. People are like, oh man, we're going to set up a data lake or a data warehouse and then toss Power BI or Tableau on top of it. No. Like, show me your core CRM reports. I want to make sure that everybody has the same source of truth reports. Everybody has the same definition around what are the key things inside of those. Like, show me that first before you do any of the BI. The amount of like BI tools I've seen that no one uses and no one understands, like, it is like BI tools, like, you shouldn't even, if you can't show me your core set of reports that everybody's using, don't even ever entertain a BI tool.
Well, I think your point there, what people miss a lot, and this is back to something Sarika said earlier, you have to invest in the talent. Because if you don't have your data structure correct, and that is reflected in how good your baseline reports are, and you don't have somebody with the talent to read the data and structure it correctly, and let's keep in mind the change management costs here are astounding. Absolutely. Sorry, I got a little passionate about that one.
No. Like, I could not agree more. With like the BI tool, like, crawl, walk, run. Like, I promise you, you can do more with the V1 of a lot of these tools than you can with the trying to implement a V3 of them. So prospecting tools, there's lots out there. I think some are good, but again, you need to be able to justify that ROI. What does your outbound motion look like? Support ticketing. I think it's important to have this support ticketing, but again, what type of CS motion are you running? Is it more a a 1 to N, or is it a 1 to 1? And what does that kind of motion look like? I think the support ticketing, particularly given the size of your customer base, can move in that must-have. LMS, like, how do you think about enablement internally? So many clients that we see are like, oh my God, this LMS is all of a sudden going to enable everybody, and everybody's going to be the world's greatest sellers or BDRs or CS people. It's like, oh, like, are you being thoughtful about your system? Really, the LMS is just the delivery mechanism. Like, I know whenever I've had to go through like security trainings or things like that, I'm just clicking through it as quickly as I can, trying to get the answers correct so that you're just kind of getting through it. Like, video tools, like, Vidyard's, nice to have, like, again, but thinking about your outbound motion, like, I may look at a Vidyard, but I might not. Like, some of the conversation intelligence tools, like, they drive me up the wall, because like the conversation intelligence of like, unless you're going to actually spend the time coaching everybody, and up front, you've given everybody the playbook, getting back into the strategy and the process of like, this is how we run a discovery call or a sales call or a CS call, and then you're going to coach against that, then a conversational intelligence tool may be helpful. But if you haven't done that stuff up front, or you're going to spend the time to actually sit down and listen to it, like, why are you doing it? Again, less is more with all of this type of stuff.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
I think there've been lots of questions. I don't know, Camilla,
Mhm.
if you want to help walk through the questions, let's maybe address.
I was just going to elbow my way in. So one of the things, Ryan's first question, I want to point something out because I think this applies to the answer. What I really like about what Reese is saying is, although he has preferences and he will tell you what those are, he's agnostic enough to try to develop the right stack for where the company is. So the question was, should we be focusing on designing the right tech stack? And is that a huge precursor to a company's to actually getting things right in the long run? So that's part A of question one.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah. So love it. Great question, Ryan. Really appreciate it. So this is, again, why we started with the first slide about strategy and process. Before you buy any tech, like maybe a CRM, But like before you do anything else beyond the CRM, spend the time documenting strategy and process. One of the things we're also going to talk about, well, we may not get there, but like hopefully we do. Your tech owners, like we're believers in setting up something called the Business Systems Council. We can talk about that here in a second, but like Business Systems Council is comprised of your tech owners. They should be partners to the business. They shouldn't be just a bunch of yes people where it's like, oh, hey, sales leader asked this, I'm going to go do this. CS person asked this, I'm going to do this. It's like, no, they should be in the room as you're designing that strategy and the process to understand, okay, the team is trying to do this because this is how we're going to go to market and things like that. How do I think about building this from the best in class? I'm actually going to say no to this because this doesn't feel like it aligns or we can't do this. I'm going to tweak this request. I'm going to partner with them on this request. Once we get then the core tech, all right, we got the CRM set up. What are the other things we can bolt on to it in a way that, again, optimizes for that strategy and process? So 2 comments there. And I know that was very long-winded, but like one, make sure you got that strategy and process. Like I would optimize for that and then build the tech according to that. The second thing is if you as tech owners or you working with tech owners, make sure they're in the room with you as you're working through the go-to-market strategy and things like that. Again, the tech shouldn't dictate the strategy, but they should be partners in understanding what are we trying to do from a strategy standpoint.
I love that because don't get me wrong, you can make a ton of money specializing in a tool, but if you want to go into overall RevOps consulting, RevOps management, and really get into the upper levels of leadership, you can't be married to one tech stack, one solution, you just can't.
So be married to the strategy, right? And I think that's I see this even at cash flow, that we are finding amazing new tech show up. And so, even in the nice to have category, what is really important is that we think about what is ROI, right? Like, and not only like this, is this going to save me time, but is this going to accelerate our business in a meaningful way? And if it is, let's take a look at it and really assess it, right? So I think to me, important that you don't just sort of get stuck in one way of thinking about things, right?
So
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, we had a couple people ask, is this specific to just SaaS or tech companies? And I would totally agree with you, Reese. I've used a similar structure for consumer-based golf simulator software with long sales cycles. It's more about the sales cycle and go-to-market strategy.
Like we at Domestique, we primarily work with B2B tech SaaS, but we work with services companies, B2C. We did tattoo franchise, things like that. Like this stuff still applies, right? Like the tattoo franchise is a great example, right? Not, it's a B2C model. It's not in tech, things like that. And one of the things we're hammering home with them about is like, hey, we need to get this strategy identified. And they were trying to build HubSpot. HubSpot was their CRM. But the problem is like they were doing a HubSpot in such a way where they couldn't track all the individuals who have ever gotten a tattoo. So they couldn't send them potential like expansion opportunities of like, oh, hey, here's 10% off on your next tattoo. Things like they couldn't do all the basic stuff because like, if you think about the strategy, and this is one of the, I don't know if I just say this because like, I want people to, use RevOps in whatever business, but like a lot of the core principles about RevOps works across like industry, styles of companies, things like that, because like, designing a strategy, right? Whether you're a B2B tech SaaS or B2C or services, like doesn't really, like you need to have your strategy, right? Like all these types of things are applicable in these different areas. I just read Nadia's comment, by the way. Nadia, we didn't put everything on here. I agree with you. Like we happy to nerd out with you on the MarTech stack, but yes, a ring lead for a deduping, lead routing, so on and so forth, an ABM platform. If you get to that place, yeah, agree with all that. This is definitely not a comprehensive list.
Pamela, maybe go back to slide 4 and continue like with some of the things that we had planned.
Yeah, I don't want people to feel like they're missing out on anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go ahead, please.
So like part of the reason why we put this in here and we kept this as its own slide is like this should be your guiding principle as you're thinking about your tech stack. Like it should make people more efficient, not less efficient, right? Like how many times, like, I don't know if you guys have experienced this. I have seen this where like you see like people like, oh my God, I am spending so much time updating this in the tech stack. Or people are like, yeah, we got to pull all this data out of the tech stack. We got to do 27 different backflips inside of Excel in order to get the data in any reportable function. Like that is not making people's lives more efficient, right? Like the whole point behind data or behind the tech is like, is this actually making lives easier? If not, why are we doing this, right? So this gets back to the whole ROI thing. And I think Sarka keeps hammering home on this, and she's done, of like, it's not just the cost of purchasing it, but like there's an opportunity cost as well. And the opportunity cost is about maintaining it, but also how is all the end users in the tech engaging with this? Are they spending less time or more time? Are you getting the value out of it that you were hoping to get out of it?
Right. So I think there's a nuance over here that I want to actually talk about, which is oftentimes or sometimes tech will actually introduce process, which to us like a salesperson may seem like, oh, now you made me less efficient because I could do everything on a Word doc, and now you're just forcing me to put it into a CRM system or whatever it is, right? And there is a balance here. Process is to make the company more efficient and overall as a company for us to become more effective and efficient. But there are points at which you literally actually make people inefficient and a very good example of that is a completely complex and crazy approval system, which slows down things versus actually speeds up things. So I wonder, Reese, if you have any comments on that, but I just wanted to say that sometimes it does feel like tools are actually introducing process, which is good, right? Or can be.
No, I think your point's 100% spot. Like oftentimes when we'll come in and do a CRM setup or CM migration, what ends up happening is exactly the point you're bringing up, Sarka, of like, people like, we'll ask them where we're saying it's like, oh, show me your stage advancement criteria. And people are like, you're what? It's like, yeah, what are all your different stages inside of your opportunity funnel? What are the key activities that you have? Do you want them gated? Do you want them? I mean, like people like, oh, we've never thought about this. Like, well, how do you then actually have like standardized reporting? How do we know that? And so like it drives then that process. So oftentimes coming in and doing like a CRM setup or a migration or things like that actually forces that functionality. And the good news to your point, Sarka, is the fact that you can kind of get away with it the earlier you are in a company's maturity. Like, hey, we got 2 salespeople. Johnny's doing things in a Google Doc. Susie Q's kind of keeping notes, like she likes pen and paper, things like that. But when you go, particularly, you start to add people here. The reason why the process is so important is it allows you to scale, and then Johnny and Susie and Tommy and the next 10 different individuals are all then running the same process, and you can actually start to track the data over time.
So there's a question we missed that's really relevant. Ryan asked, is the C-suite getting trained in revenue architecture at all? And I just want to see Reese's reaction and answer.
Oh my God, Ryan, that's such a good question, man. Yes and no. So like, again, I made the comment, I was specifically making the comment around data and not tech, but like, it's got to fly at the right altitude. Like, you're not going to take an executive, Sarka may be the exception, right? But most traditional CEOs, you're not going to take them in there as like, oh, look, here's the workflow we have inside of Salesforce or anything. Like, they don't care about that, right? 60,000 feet, right? What an executive cares about, this is kind of like what's in it for them. They care about like, is the team running the same process? And then do they have data that they can make intentional decisions on? So like training the CEO, like how to use different workflows or things like that, no. However, showing them where to pull different things and holding them accountable to running the same process. You set up something for your team and expect all your 22-year-old BDRs and your 27-year-old AEs to run one thing. You don't make an exception for the CEO because they're big and energetic and they throw their hands up in the air and they pay. It's like, no, like you want to add, I recognize that you called up your buddy and we now have a new opportunity. This is how you create an opportunity. Like you put it into the CRM, you put it into the tech stack, because if you're doing special things for them. What ends up happening then is you got two different parallel paths going, and you're not then using the tech stack to be super efficient. And I've seen this countless times. Like, well, we do it for the CEO because they don't like looking at things. Well, teach them how to do this. Like, they're smart. They can figure this out. This is not rocket science.
I would totally educate the CEO because the CEO does care. They don't need to know all the nitty-gritty details, but they absolutely care about how things are done because ultimately they get better data, and data is a life. It's a life of a the life stream of a company. Let's go to the next slide, and because we have some more interesting things to cover. How to optimize your tech stack. Reese, over to you.
Cool. So like, question is like, all right, you may have issues, you may not. Like, by the way, if you guys have a perfectly set up tech stack, I would love to see it because I've very rarely seen any. So you guys got that. Awesome. Massive kudos. If you realize that there are some potential opportunities for improvement here, like how do you actually go about, going through that process? So what we have done is identified some things that we would classify as like best in class things that you should think about as you're thinking about, hey, how do we take our tech stack from the current level to the next level? So one, what I would do is like do an audit of the current state. What is all the, what is all the tech? What are, where are their integrations? How is data flowing through this? Who is using what? And then as a part of that audit, put a qualitative, are people using this good, mediocre, or bad, right? The whole gladiator thumbs up, thumbs down thing, just to kind of give it'll give you a quick heat map. Like oftentimes when you say the word audit, people are like, oh my God, we're going to do this like 47-week, like deep dive. Like, no. Like you can do this in a day and a half, 2 days. And like, I promise you'll probably get it 90% correct. So like directionally correct, big believer in directionally correct. So like, do it quickly. You can get it out of here. I bet you can map it all out and get a pretty good understanding of kind of like, where's it at? Second, I mentioned this earlier. If you are not doing this, take one thing away from this talk today, take this away. Set up a business systems council. What is a business systems council? A business systems council is all of your tech owners. So in that kind of like tech ecosystem, they meet on a reoccurring basis. We normally recommend bi-weekly, so every other week. And as a part of this business system council, you need to have a tech intake form, right? You can set up as cases in Salesforce or something like, but it can't be just random one-off Slacks, one-off emails. It's got to be the whole company does the exact same thing. And what this team does during the meeting is they go through, hey, what was all the work that we did the last 2-week sprint? What are all the net new requests? Let's look at the roadmap and go through. We normally do an LOI, LOE exercise, level of effort, level of impact. Go through and kind of prioritize them. All right, for this week's, we're going to work on these top ones. Oh, by the way, of the requests, we have intentionally said no to this one because it doesn't align to strategy. We're going to go back with this one, ask for more discovery and requirements, and so on and so forth. Then as you roll out this, and this is so important, you need to make sure whatever you do is enabled. The analogy we love to use all the time is like, you can build a Ferrari, but if you don't teach anybody to drive it, the fact that your Ferrari is sitting in your garage, like no one cares about it, right? So like you need to be sure it's enabled. So like, yes, you may have some people who may not like getting up in front of salespeople or doing stuff like that, but like part of being a tech owner means you are responsible for making sure people knows how to use it. And that is part of what the business system council is. And then once you've established your roadmap, you need to communicate it out to the larger org, right? So this becomes your reoccurring process. It's just kind of like similar to an agile process on the product side, but like this will get greater alignment. I promise you, one of the things we see all the time is tech owner over here is making this change, doesn't communicate with tech owner over here. All of a sudden they get into business systems councils like, oh, hang on a second, I'm doing this. And I know it has downstream impacts over here. Oh, okay. And it creates the ability for people to kind of sync back and forth. Third point, understanding go-to-market strategy and process. We've kind of hammered home on this, but like get your tech owners into those meetings. Tech shouldn't dictate the meetings, but they should be a partner as you're discussing that. We talked about building the tech stack roadmap, LOI, LOE, the easy button when you have low level of effort, high level of impact. Address those, mediums or high lows. That's when you can kind of start talking about some of the other ones. partner with enablement, right? Like I just made this point, but like seriously, if you have enablement, tech needs to be enabled. If you don't, it's responsible of the business owners. Teach everybody to drive the Ferrari. Cool. And then I
So
don't know,
sorry.
I don't know what the last point is.
Here it
Oh,
is.
build the tech renewal spreadsheet. If you guys haven't done this, I promise
Yeah.
you, you will unequivocally save money. As a part of your tech renewal spreadsheet, it's going to take a little work up front. Make sure you understand when the auto renews are. And then you want to kind of back it out from there. Because if it's an important piece of tech, you're going to need the time to, and you're going to move off of it. You're going to need the time to either wind down something and start something new. So like, if it's a 30-day auto renew, I would start having the conversations 90 days before that of like, okay, we actually don't like this. We're either going to sunset it or we're going to replace it. If we're going to replace it, how are we going to do that? What's the change management, so on and so forth. I promise you, you'll save money. The other fun fact for you guys, put in, if you can, do quick Google, put in when is the fiscal year end for each of the tech vendors. This is one of my favorite questions I always ask whenever I do renewals. I just straight up ask them, it's like, hey, when's your fiscal year end? If you're negotiating a renewal at the end of a quarter, I guarantee you, drag your feet a little bit, you'll get a screaming deal. So happy to help, happy to give you guys some thoughts on like how to get good deals as you guys are doing vendor renewals.
Yeah, I don't love the last point, obviously, as
I was going to say as a vendor.
But I totally agree. First of all, you want to have tools that are valuable and useful and thoughtful. And we are going to have this renewal spreadsheet that you can use. It's simple, but it's amazing. Nobody has this. Nobody does this. They don't track it. And then they get surprised. This has happened to us many times. We know we wanted to cancel something, but they just sneaked it in, and then we couldn't cancel it anymore. So it's just such a simple way to keep track of things. We have 9 minutes left. There is one particular slide that I would love for us to get into, and then we can start wrapping up. So this is the slide. This is it. Because I think this is kind of the important piece of like, how do you know if something has been optimized, right? Like when do you feel like, okay, now I'm like, humming and buzzing and things are going good. So Reese, do you want to add some examples, some really interesting stories around this?
Yeah, so this is kind of like, how do we know that we found the holy grail, right? Of like the truly optimized tech stack, right? Like I think there's a couple of like key indicators that like indicates like things are working well, right? Like, and I'm not going to touch on all of them. You guys can read them, but I can give a couple examples. So like one, on-demand data that everybody knows. Like this sounds so simple, but like so few companies do this well. Of like, and what I mean by this is like, all right, if we have all defined that an MQL is X, do we have like the one source of truth report that your CEO is pulling, that your head of demand gen is reporting, that your CMO is reporting? Like, what is that? And do people agree with it and can make investment decisions on it? Right? If you have that, that is probably a strong indicator that you've got well-defined definitions. You probably have good integrations between your marketing automation tool and your CRM. The data is flowing correctly, that you understand at different places, like, where MQLs are showing up, why they're showing up, something, so on and so forth. One other kind of like great indicator is like, what's the noise you're hearing from the end users? Like, I promise you, just do like a quick poll of like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Sales Rep, like, how much time do you spend kind of like in the tech stack updating things, right? Mr. and Mrs. BDR, like, how much time do you like, if you're not hearing a lot of noise, that probably means there's not wasting a ton of time, like having to do manual, manual workarounds, things like that. Talked about the business system council, like easily.
I'd love to talk, maybe jump in on the end user engagement, because this is, I think, near and dear to my heart, because we think a lot about this. And I want to give you an example of where we are doing things to improve. So we found, for example, and by the way, as a vendor, salespeople love our tool, RevOps loves our tool, but lately we found that CS has been creating noise and saying, hey, the tool is taking us too long. And we took it upon ourselves to actually understand why were they saying that. And we found out that a lot of CS is actually done on paper today, right? So they will actually they really have very little process, and they're doing it on paper. So when a system is put in place, they're like, oh, this is much harder for us, because now they've lost their freedom. And it is on us as a vendor to actually now actually figure out how to educate CS, or maybe figure out how to make them find that that fun in using the solution, right? But you hold your vendors accountable for some of these things like engagement, adoption as well, because it is on them to make it easier. So just wanted to call it out. That's a very important point, right?
And Sarga, you bring up a really good point, like holding vendors accountable, right? If you have a tool that is not well set up or well enabled, go back to the vendor and be like, hey, look, we're seriously looking at churning this tool. We need help doing A, B, and C, setting this up better. And then we want you guys to do a 2-session, like 9 times out of 10, the vendor will do that. So like ask your vendor to do these things and hold them accountable.
Yeah, totally. Love the business system council idea. You were going there. So maybe question I have, Reese, for you, because you explained what it is. And, there's obviously a bigger company can have a very sort of systematic business council. If you're a smaller company, how could you actually have a nifty or like a faster business council? Because it is still important to have all those decisions made.
Yeah, that's a great question. So like, and this is kind of gets back to one of the tenets we believe when in RevOps, like you don't have to have everybody reporting up to the same org or department, things like that, to have a business systems council. What I would do, particularly if you're a small organization, get all the key tech owners and or admins in a room together on a biweekly, explain to them what is the agenda of like, we're going to talk through all the changes. We're going to look at incoming requests, things like that. So you may have people reporting all different places. Like we see a lot of like player coaches of like, oh, hey, I'm a sales leader, but I'm also serving as kind of the interim like Salesforce admin, things like that, particularly in smaller organizations, but still getting people in a room together and having them have intentional conversations about the changes you're trying to make inside the tech stack. I promise you is going to, the output will be a much better aligned and set up tech stack.
Yeah, and maybe on the less wasted time, I wanted to give a personal example that our RevOps team put together for cash flow. So every time a lead came in, our sales team and our marketing team was doing research on the leads to figure out what is this lead, who are they qualified. A lot of time spent on that, and we did a really nice data flow room where it actually pulls data from different places and actually saves the salesperson a lot of time so they can respond faster. They have context of what the company is. They're going into these conversations very well informed. But these are the things that you need to think about, like that you're actually saving time, making people more effective. And you can feel it. You can feel of how people are not stuck doing doing internal work and have time for customer facing work, right?
Yeah. 100%. Should we take a few questions the last couple of minutes left?
Absolutely. Any questions?
Feel free to use either the comments or Q&A.
While we're waiting for questions, maybe Camilla, we can actually maybe jump to slide 9, which is basically the template we were talking about, so everybody can see it and see if it's useful for them.
Great. Hold on, let me get the right screen up before I share.
All good.
Technical difficulties. All right. Oh, that's why it was maximized. 1 second, hold please. And then folks, as you exit the webinar, please do give us detailed feedback. We really appreciate it. It helps us understand what topics you want to see next, what's done well. There we go.
Right.
So
and
the
so
link,
yeah, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say the link has been dropped in the Zoom chat, and it looks like Riley may have just done it again.
Okay, awesome. Something leave behind for you guys to use. It's simple but effective.
Cool. Yeah, if you guys aren't doing this, take this, use it. RevOps conferences to attend. I would actually, to be honest, like I attend you virtually. Like if anybody like, yeah, I don't know. Like
I gotta plug the RevOps AF from the RevOps co-op because it's community run and product agnostic.
Yeah. So like, I think things like that. I think the one thing that I would just be thoughtful about, and I think RevOps co-op falls in this bucket, is just make sure like whatever organization you're going to, they have a good definition of what is RevOps. Like if they're just talking about sales and marketing ops or just tech admin, probably not worth your time. So
Which is why we have marketing, sales, CS, and leadership tracks.
boom, boom. You see how we're
Yeah.
like teeing each other up. Nadia, great question about in-source versus like, please take this next comment with a grain of salt because I am a RevOps consultant. So please take it with a grain of salt. I think that size of company very impacts this. And what I mean by this is like typically companies who are kind of like a couple million in ARR, to call it like 30 or 40 or 50 million in ARR, they may have budget or they have like some budget for one, maybe two RevOps individuals. The challenging part with that is a couple of things. One, those one or two individuals are probably junior because like RevOps hasn't been around that long, and anybody who's been in it for a long time has a pretty big job. Two, they end up getting peanut butter spread a bunch across a lot of different areas. And because they're peanut butter spread, they're probably doing things that they don't have experience with or doing things kind of mediocre. RevOps agencies like Domestique, and again, take it with a grain of salt. I'm totally biased here, so I'm calling that out. We have like a bunch of deep technical, all sorts of admins, MOPS people, RevOps people, things like that. We can tap different individuals, and we've all been there, done that. So the good news about an agency type of model is you get a full stack RevOps team who has deep expertise who can do that, as versus the one or two RevOps people that you're peanut butter spread. Now, the bigger you get, you can kind of like hire that expertise and things like that. So food for thought. I think it's size dependent. And again, I think there's advantages and disadvantages. So
Yeah, and Reese I trust, but be very careful to vet their philosophy and the team you'll actually be getting on your project. That's all I would add. Thank you everyone so much for attending. Thank you so much, Cashflow and Reese and Domestique, for sharing all of your knowledge. This has been excellent. Be sure to check out RevOps AF, our conference, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Bye-bye.
thank you.